Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the totally invisible, yet absolutely fascinating chemistry of bleaching. We're going to take a little journey that starts right there in your laundry room and scales all the way up to the massive, highly engineered environment of an industrial paper mill. Now, you might think you know how bleach works, right? But the microscopic warfare required to create a simple white sheet of paper, or just keep your t-shirt clean, is incredibly complex. So let's get right into it.
Okay, let's start with a massive paradox that actually blew up recently on a popular Reddit thread. It's a question we've all probably run into at some point. If bleach is supposed to make colors white, why does it sometimes turn your favorite crisp white t-shirt completely yellow? I mean, it seems totally counterintuitive. If the chemical is designed to erase stains, why in the world does it sometimes act like a yellow dye?
Well, to get to the bottom of this, we first need to understand a process called oxidation. You know that household bleach you buy? It usually contains a chemical called sodium hypochlorite. When you spill, say, ketchup on your shirt and hit it with bleach, the chemical doesn't actually make the ketchup vanish into thin air. Instead, it oxidizes it. It literally alters the chemical makeup of the stain so that its color shifts entirely outside the human visible range. The stain is still physically sitting there, but it's basically put on an invisibility cloak. White fabric plus an unseeable color just equals white to our brains.
So here's the real kicker. You have to understand the difference between true white and what we're going to call fabric white. Your crisp white clothes, they aren't actually truly pure white at all. The natural color of cotton fibers is usually this dull, slight yellow. To fix this, clothing manufacturers add specific blue brighteners to the fabric, which basically trick our eyes into seeing a brilliant, crisp white. When you heavily bleach a shirt, that powerful oxidation process strips away those artificial blue brighteners, and suddenly, boom, you're just left staring at the fabric's natural, ugly, yellowish hue.
All right, moving on to Section 1, Industrial Bleaching and Making Paper. Now that we've got a handle on how household oxidation works on a small scale, let's zoom way out to a massive industrial scale. At its core, industrial pulp bleaching is tackling the exact same underlying problem as your laundry, but instead of oxidizing a temporary ketchup stain, the industrial villain here is something called lignin. Lignin is this tough, complex polymer inside wood that binds the fibers together. It's exactly what gives unbleached wood pulp its natural dark brown color. Think of like a standard cardboard box. To get crisp white paper, we have to aggressively get rid of that brown lignin without actually destroying the wood fibers themselves. And you can see the ultimate goal perfectly illustrated right here. Take a look at that bottom axis, representing the lignin kappa number, which is simply the industry's way of measuring how much residual lignin is left in the pulp. As we systematically drive that kappa number to the left, pushing it down towards zero, look at the vertical axis. The ISO brightness of the pulp spikes massively, shooting all the way up to 90%. Eliminating lignin is unequivocally the key to achieving pristine white paper.
But, getting that brightness up to 90% isn't as simple as just dumping a truckload of household bleach onto a pile of wood. It requires a highly technical, multi-stage attack. It starts with an initial craft cook to break down the raw wood, moves into a pressurized oxygen stage, and finally finishes up with a highly precise chlorine dioxide bleaching stage.
Which brings us to Section 2, the oxygen delignification stage.
In this stage, we are heading the brown pulp with absolutely extreme conditions. We're talking temperatures around 100 degrees Celsius, held for a full hour, under 0.6 megapascals of oxygen pressure. Why so incredibly intense? Because under these specific conditions, the oxygen specifically targets the highly reactive phenolic end groups. Think of these as the vulnerable chemical tails of the lignin structure. It forces an electron transfer that oxidizes and literally shatters the lignin, allowing us to wash away up to 55% of it right here in this single stage.
But of course, there's a massive catch-22 in this process. The industry calls it the viscosity loss problem. At 0 minutes, the oxygen goes right after that residual lignin. By 30 minutes, the lignin is happily breaking down. But as we push toward that 60-minute mark to squeeze out even more color, the oxygen starts getting sloppy. It makes mistakes. It accidentally starts cleaving the actual cellulose chains, the very fibers we absolutely need to make the paper strong. It literally chops the cellulose into shorter units, fundamentally degrading the physical strength of the final paper.
And that leads right into Section 3, the chlorine dioxide solution. So chemical engineers hit a total wall here. To solve this destructive problem without sacrificing that beautiful brightness, the industry had to step away from just using oxygen and find a much more precise weapon. They needed a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Enter chlorine dioxide. Unlike the harsh, environmentally messy elemental chlorine of the past, chlorine dioxide is a highly efficient, selective hero chemical. It has an unpaired electron that perfectly targets the remaining lignin without aggressively attacking the cellulose fibers. As the quote points out, it efficiently oxidizes the lignin, giving us brilliant brightness without sacrificing any of the paper's physical strength.
But wait, the battle for pure white paper isn't quite over yet. When pulping certain types of wood, specifically fast-growing hardwoods like eucalyptus, another stubbornly invisible compound decides to show up. It's called hexanuronic acid, or hexa for short. Just look at the steep curve here. As the pulping goes deeper and the kappa number drops, the hexa levels actually increase, creating a brand new headache for these chemical engineers.
This hexanuronic acid is an absolute menace to the bleaching process, really for three main reasons. First, it forms super rapidly during the pulping of hardwoods. Second, it acts just like a sponge, completely eating up our expensive, precise chlorine dioxide before it can even touch the lignin. And third, and honestly most importantly for our story today, if even a tiny little bit of this acid is left in the final, fully bleached paper, it causes a phenomenon called post-color formation, which basically means secondary yellowing over time.
So let's tie this whole thing together. That secondary yellowing you see in an old stack of paper caused by leftover hexanuronic acid, it is literally the exact same underlying frustration as your favorite white t-shirt turning yellow in the wash. Whether it's blue brighteners being stripped away in your laundry room or complex acids reacting in a notebook as it ages, oxidation and chemical degradation are constantly fighting against our illusion of pure, perfect white.
It really makes you stop and think, right? If this insane level of invisible, microscopic chemical warfare, manipulating kappa numbers, electron transfers, and complex acids is required just to make a standard sheet of printer paper white, what other massive industrial secrets and complex chemical reactions are hiding right now inside your everyday household chores? Next time you pour a cap of bleach into your washing machine, just remember, you're basically doing industrial chemistry. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the science of the everyday world around you.